Hello, everyone. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Paola, and today I have a very special guest, semi-debut author, because this is your middle grade debut. So, Kalynn, can you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your middle grade debut?
So I'm Kalynn Bayron. I write YA and now middle grade fiction. My previous works include Cinderella is Dead, This Poison Heart, and the New York Times bestseller, This Wicked Fate. And my forthcoming release is my middle grade debut, and it is called The Vanquishers. So The Vanquishers is the story of 12-year-old Malika Boog Wilson. Her nickname is Boog. Boog and her BFFs, Cedric and Jules, are kind of navigating their first year of middle school. And they all live in San Antonio, Texas. That's where this story is based. And in my book, San Antonio is a place where vampires were known to have existed, but were wiped out by a group of masked vampire slayers called the Vanquishers 20 years prior in this big battle called the Reaping. So now vampires are extinct and people have stopped kind of vampire proofing their houses, and the Vanquishers are retired and in hiding. But when Boog's new friend, Aaron, goes missing after a school fundraiser at the local skate rink, Boog and her friends suspect that a vampire may be involved. So they have to figure out if maybe the Vanquishers need to don their masks and take on the undead once more.
I love that. That's so intense and high stakes. And that's how I love my middle grade, especially because it proves time and time again how smart kids can be.
Yes,
Oh,
absolutely.
I love that. So what was the world building process like? Did you start with the characters or did it start with the world?
Yeah, so I started writing this book when I was living in San Antonio. So I think for me, the world did kind of come first. I was living in San Antonio, and I love vampire stories. So I was thinking about, what would this look like if it was taking place now? What would it look like if everybody knew that vampires existed or had existed at one point? What would that look like? So I created this world where stores have like daylight operating hours only, and businesses that are fortified by silver fences and things like that. The characters kind of came after, and they're just so fun. I really wanted this tight knit group of friends because friend groups in middle school are important. They're so important. They're such a big part of that kind of middle school experience. So I have this tight knit group of friends and their respective families, which are also really close, because kind of found family and family that isn't necessarily related by blood are like a huge thing for me. So I wanted that in there as well. But my main character, Boog, is this very average middle schooler. She cares about her friends and sleepovers and is dealing with bullies. And she just feels very kind of familiar to me. And then creating the Vanquishers themselves was amazing because I also am a huge kind of Marvel Cinematic Universe fan. I love superheroes. I love kind of the lore that goes along with that. So the Vanquishers were essentially a team of superheroes, and superheroes are always kind of flawed individuals. So under their masks, they were, these human beings who were dealing with the weight of defending their city against vampires. So all of those things kind of came into place, but it was mostly the world building first, and then the characters came after.
That's amazing. I love hearing about the world building process. So I also really love the voice in your book. I can already see it as a movie. Where's the movie deal? So if you got a movie deal, who do you think would be the best fit for a director?
I'm a very kind of visual writer. Like as I'm writing, I'm kind of seeing it as a movie. As far as directors, oh man, like if Jordan Peele ever wanted to adapt something scary for a younger audience, I think he could knock it out of the park. I also think maybe Misha Green or Nia DaCosta would be amazing, because this story at its heart is it is a paranormal, scary story. It's a vampire tale, and it centers, these Black and brown kids and their families. And I think that that's something that we don't get enough of in the paranormal genre. So I think any of those people would be great.
Oh my goodness, I love this. Because, yes, like that's also part of why the book stands out to me, because it's scary as an adult to read, and scary as a kid to read as well.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I can only imagine. So I love that. And I love that you didn't sort of like shy away from those spooky factors.
Yeah.
So what was it like to write like horror paranormal thing for middle grade readers?
So I love scary stories. I was obsessed with scary stories to tell in the dark and the Fear Street series when I was younger, Goosebumps, of course. And I think there's an entire demographic of young readers who really just love spooky, scary tales, but who maybe aren't quite ready for that kind of YA horror yet. I like to toe that line. I like to come right up to what is acceptable for middle grade. But that's the thing. I think the challenge for me is more about kind of like the delivery of it. Because I don't think that there's anything that is strictly off limits. I mean, there are a few things, very, very few things. But, overall, I think that younger audiences love these types of stories. They love vampires and they love scary things and ghosts and haunted houses, and they love that. So I think it's more about the delivery for the younger audience. But I also don't want to, it's not about kind of talking down to them because they can handle it. They are smart, they are enthusiastic, they want these stories to be told to them and they don't want to be talked down to. And so I don't. I really try to focus on the delivery of it. And that's kind of where I can sneak in, well, not really sneak in, I can really add in these scary kind of horror elements without it feeling too overwhelming for my younger readers.
Yeah, I definitely see what you mean. If you want, we can talk a little bit about your upcoming novel, which you also mentioned is on Twitter. I've seen that you talk a little bit about how that's like a little bit of a love letter to the campy slasher films that,
Yes.
yeah, and that's
Yeah. So
why.
yes, it's a YA. It is a horror, straight up horror novel. It is a slasher. I'm not really trying to do anything hugely groundbreaking there. I just wanted to write a really kind of creepy slasher story that centers a queer Black girl and other Black and brown characters. Because in that horror genre, sometimes we are there. And we're seeing a lot more White Smoke by Tiffany Jackson, and The Weight of Blood just came out also by Tiffany Jackson. We're seeing this horror resurgence that centers marginalized characters. I have those elements, but this is a story that is my ode to Friday the 13th and Halloween. And it's this ode to these very kind of tropey horror films that I love so much. And so, yeah, I feel like something really amazing and magical is happening in the YA space for horror writers right now. And it's really exciting to watch because I love scary stories. I love being scared. It's a weird thing, but it's like I love it so much. And so I'm so happy to be able to see us in those main roles.
Oh my goodness. Okay, so I'm not really a horror person. And then one of my friends is really into horror, and they were like, you should watch the Fear Street movies. You should do this, you should do that. And I started it and I was like, oh, this is kind of cool. I really
Yeah.
like it. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I watched the Fear Street series, all three parts, and I just love it so much. There's so much nostalgia there for me, but also having kind of this new audience get to watch it. It's like it's great. Yeah.
And I also like, I didn't know what to expect because I didn't know anything about Fear Street, nothing, nothing.
Right.
So I started watching it and I was like, oh my God, this movie said gay rights. Oh my God,
Yeah.
this movie is
Yeah.
not killing the most important characters. This is amazing. I love this
Yes.
so much. So I really cannot wait for your book. My next question is, in three non-spoiler words, what can readers expect in the sequel to The Vanquishers?
Oh, that's so hard. Three words. I'm gonna say many more vampires. There are
Yes.
so many. Yeah, there's so much to dig into. So much history, so many secrets. It's like I'm drafting book two right now, and yeah, there's a lot going on here, and it's just, I love it so much. I love being in this world with these characters. It's so much fun.
See, that's what I mean. We need the movie deal. We need an extended universe.
Yes.
And finally, what do you hope your readers, both young or like both target audience and non-target audience, take from the Vanquishers?
I wrote The Vanquishers because I wanted my readers to just have fun, scary stories. I want my readers to enjoy this story and maybe be a little scared, maybe have to read it with the lights on. That's really all I'm hoping for. I just want my readers to have a good time and to be a little scared. I'd like for them to continue to think about the story after it's over, and just to have a good time reading this story. That's really all I'm hoping for.
That's a really great purpose. Like, I
Yeah.
love that. Yes, more of that, please. I remember looking back at the like last couple of years releases, and I'm like, great, finally in 2022, we finally have fun, maybe not so lighthearted, but like more fun, more when your suspense of disbelief is like more
Yes.
awake, I
Yeah.
guess. Yes.
Yeah. We've had a lot of stories, some of mine included, especially with Cinderella is Dead, that are really kind of, there's a deeper kind of message, there's messaging there. There are stories about, fighting oppression and fighting homophobia and queer phobia and racism. And we're pushing back on all these things. It's like, I want to be able to balance, because we still need those stories. I want to
Yes.
be able to balance that with stories that are just about escaping a masked serial killer in the woods. Like, and it just so happens that the characters are Black and queer, and our our identities are present and visible, but aren't a source of pain or trauma.
Yes.
There's plenty of other trauma that's coming with a serial killer chasing you in the woods. Like, let's have a balance, because I think it's really important to show that we can have these scary stories or joyful stories or stories that are queer normative, where characters aren't constantly fighting homophobia or racism or those things. They just get to exist. I think those stories are equally important.
Yes, same. So thank you so much for doing this with me. I cannot wait for more readers to join the fun with the Vanquishers. Shout out to Alexa for helping us coordinate this meeting.
Yes.
And yes, do you have anything else you would like to plug? Anything else you'd like to say?
No, just happy reading to anyone who picks up the Vanquishers. I really appreciate all the support.
Thank you everyone for watching. Don't forget to check the description below for buy links and a link to Kalynn's website. And yes, thank you so much. Bye everyone.